अब हम इस तमाम मसले पर ज़रा ईरान का पर्सपेक्टिव लेते हैं। मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं हामिद रज़ा गुलामज़ादे। इनको आपने बहुत बारी BBC पे देखा होगा, CNN पे देखा होगा, अल जज़ीरा पे बहुत रेगुलरली आप देखते हैं। डायरेक्टर हाउस ऑफ डिप्लोमेसी हैं, थिंक टैंक, उसके ये डायरेक्टर हैं, पहले एडिटर इन चीफ भी रहे हुए हैं न्यूज़ आउटलेट के। इनकी बड़ी एक गहरी नज़र है इसके ऊपर और बड़ा ये सरकारी व्यू पॉइंट भी समझते हैं और दूसरा व्यू पॉइंट भी समझते हैं। इनसे गुफ्तगू मेरी अंग्रेजी में होगी, लेकिन मैं सम अप आपके साथ साथ कोशिश करूंगा, साथ साथ कर दूं, बाद में कर दूं एज वी गो ऑन। अस्सलाम वालेकुम हामिद।
Alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for having me.
Hamid, a lot has happened today. Donald Trump has made some amazing announcements today. First, it was the same Donald Trump who wanted unconditional surrender, and he wanted to decide who the next supreme leader would be. Then he said, I will run the Strait of Hormuz myself. Then he talked about regime change. And then he said, no missile program, no nuclear program, nothing. Today, it was no nuclear program for weapons. Iran had already agreed to that. Regime change, no problem, because he said we are talking to a very respectable person of the regime. On the uranium dust, he said I would want it in my control. It was already agreed, according to the Oman minister, that Iran had said we will, downgrade it so it doesn't go to anyone. And then he said Iran wants a deal and I want a deal also. 2 days back he said there was nobody to talk to in Iran and I'm happy that way. So we have seen clearly Donald Trump come down a bit. No more the threat of 48 hours, I'll start bombing the entire power energy sector. Now it's 5 days. Now the thing is, does Iran see this as an opportunity? Okay, he's backed off. And at the same time, the Israelis have started bombing Tehran again. That's a different story. But how does Iran see it? Because Iran had two very tough conditions. One was we don't want a ceasefire, we want a certain arrangement, so there is not another war. And then there was talk about all the bases should be removed, the American bases in the region. Again, that is not something you can decide in one day or something. Let me first start from, first question is, do you think this time Trump might be meaning what he's saying and he wants a way out? The question is, does Iran waste this opportunity or does Iran get more stubborn and say, no, we're not going to let you get away like that? How do you see things rolling out?
Actually, President Trump needs to mean what he is saying. The more we go on under this war, the more damages will be inflicted upon the Americans and the more difficult it would be for President Trump to get out of this war of choice that he has started, and he doesn't have any idea and clue to how to leave that. So if there is supposed to be any gains for him, for sure it is less than the damages that he is going to suffer, and he has suffered so far. The whole world is blaming him for an unnecessary war that he has erupted, for the huge damages that he has made to the global economy, the oil prices, and to fuel prices, and many things that he has done. And since he is living in another planet, actually, he has, several times for the past 3 weeks, he has several times obliterated Iran, obliterated Iranian Navy, and many things. And since he is not correctly thinking, he needs to be taught a lesson. So throughout these 47 years after the revolution, Iran has realized that the only way that you can deal with Americans or Israelis is through force. So negotiations, you have seen for the past 2 series of negotiations, Americans used it and attacked Iran. Deal they did not adhere to. Ceasefire, the Israelis are the professionals in breaking the ceasefires and violating any truce that they make. So the only way you need to deal with them is through force. And that's the only way. You make them and force them into something. So that's why Iran is saying that. It was actually from the...
So Iran has made a point, okay, if whatever you do, we'll answer you in the same coin. So force point has been made.
In this war, Iran has proven that its threats are valid, and whatever Iran says is going to be carried out and done. So that's why President Trump withdrew from this 48 hours of ultimatum to open the Strait of Hormuz and the threat to attack electricity power and such things. So because he realized that Iran is very serious in this war. But what Iran is looking for, to make sure that there would not be any other war against Iran. That's more important than this war. Iran can handle this war very easily.
So who will guarantee that? What guarantees that there will be no war? There's no such thing as a UN. There is no such thing. You say they only understand the language of force. You have shown that also. So who guarantees that? What is the guarantee that, what kind of a guarantee is Iran looking for that there won't be another war?
So Iranian strategy is this. First of all, as you also mentioned, Iran is demanding removal of the military bases because there are the pretext and the base for using them against Iran to stage a war against Iran. So if they are removed, it would not be as easy as it was 3 weeks ago to attack Iran. There would be less threat from the American bases or American interests in the region. Second, to make sure deal or promises, these are jokes when you are talking about Americans and Israelis. They never adhere to their words and they never fulfill their commitments. What you can do is that these guys only understand and realize money, and the world is revolving around economy. So what Iran is doing, Iran is connecting and interviewing its own security to the security of the region and to the security of the global economy. Iran is located, this is the power of geography, as Tim Marshall says in his book. It's the power of geography. Iran is located next to Strait of Hormuz, and 20% of the energy of the world, the oil market, is passing through this place. And many other things, fertilizers, and many other things.
I think you've made a very pertinent point that two things matter. One is they understand money, they understand force. Both points have been made. Now, when you talk about bases, my last question, when you talk about bases, that's a very long process, protracted process. That means a lot of bilateral relationship between those countries and US, and then those countries who have a history with Iran also. So that even if somebody wants to do it, it can't be done in a week, 10 days, if that's a long process. My question is the question of bases, can that be a deal breaker for Iran?
5 years ago, Americans left their bases in Afghanistan momentarily, without any negotiations, without any decisions, without any timetables and planning and such things. They left Afghanistan because they had to leave Afghanistan. So again,
Afghanistan was hostile to them. These guys are very friendly to them. Big difference. That's a big difference.
It's American. Yeah, I understand that. But I mean, practically speaking, if they are supposed to be removed and closed, it would be done very quickly. It doesn't need time about the same agenda that was followed in Iraq.
But Iran can wait on that front. That's what I'm asking. Is the question of bases, is this a deal breaker at this point, or Iran would be willing to talk about it, and give it time and see how it works out?
This is not something that I would be able to comment for sure, but analytically speaking, as an analyst, I would say that it would be better for Iran to insist on this. This is the only time, once and forever, the only time that Iran can insist on removing these bases. These bases have proven to be useless, and the only use of them is to make a threat for the Arab countries in the region. They were supposed to protect Arab countries. They did not protect themselves. They did not protect them against Iran, and they did not even protect them against Israel.
Because that is true, Ahmed. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much these countries invest their billions in America or whatever. America's priority is always going to be Israel, and Israel's priority is going to see chaos and destruction in the Middle East. So that thing is always going to be there. Ahmed, I'm afraid we've run out of time.